And we're live! Woohoo! Welcome along to the live stream, everybody. For those that don't know me, let me introduce myself. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey. I'm one of the presenters right here on Adorama TV. We have loads of great content, a lot of it live. And today we're coming live from my studio and we're going to be talking about manual mode on your camera, why you need it, what it does, and hopefully some fun examples, a little bit of studio photography, portrait photography to give you a little bit of inspiration or entertainment if it goes wrong. I think we know which is going to happen. But I'm not here on my own. Behind the camera, you can see them and you can hear them. I've got Freya on the Super Switcher, Sam on the comments. Woo!
Hello. Hi everyone. How's everyone doing? We've got lots of people here. Would you like to know where some of them are from? Not all of them.
Not all of them, yes.
They've been here a long time. Okay, I'll just do a few. So we've got Epping. We've got Newcastle. We've got Argentina. We've got Tennessee. We've got Netherlands, we've got Iceland, hello from the top of the world. Michigan, oh, just down the road from us, Hawley. Jersey, I think it might be New Jersey actually. Haiti, I saw right at the beginning. Sweden, yeah, hey everyone.
Fantastic. Sorry, I wasn't not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring you? I wasn't. Anyway, let's get cracking. It's live. Anything will happen in the next hour. And if you're watching live, great, say hello in the comments, but also ask us some questions whilst we're going along as well, because that's what it's all about. If you're watching the recording, hello recorded people, we love you too. You can put your questions in the, no wait, it's the wrong way around. Comments for the recorded people, chat for the live people. You'll figure it out. Okay, now, I'm not here on my own, as well as Sam and Freya. Give it up for the amazing Chloe. Woo! Imagine they're all clapping, imagine. Okay, have a seat for me, Chloe, make yourself comfortable. So we're going to be doing some kind of, a little bit of back to basics, I guess, with this session, because manual is the mode I use in the studio when I'm taking portraits. We're going to be looking mostly at flash, but if we get time at the end, and I'll try and make sure we do, we'll also look at manual mode and how I use it with LED continuous light. Now, along the way, we'll try and take some good photos, not just make it too technical, because this could become really technical really quickly. And I've got a whole bunch of cables to plug in, so yeah, there's all sorts of potential disasters afoot. But let's start with the most obvious question, which is, why bother with manual mode? Because in manual mode, I've got to set the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. So I've got 3 things to figure out. I've also got to do the flash power, so technically 4 things. Where if I just did something like aperture priority mode, I can get rid of 2 of them. So that's what we're going to do. So let's put the camera into aperture priority mode. What could possibly go wrong? I've set the camera up already, so I know the right aperture for this is going to be f8. That's going to be the aperture of choice. f8, yeah, camera's going to decide everything else for me. Let's just take a couple of pictures and see what we get. Here we go, Chloe, quick little test photo, and reset my camera. This is a good opportunity for me to get this. Hang on, something's not quite right, clearly. Hang on a minute. Maybe if I change, I'll try this mode. This might work. Hang on a second, let's just see. That's face detect. It's not very good, is it? If I zoom in, look at that lovely, shallow depth of field. I say, oh look, that's in focus. Bits of that are in, that's f8. So here's the problem. Aperture priority mode is not a good place to be when you need to control the lights. Now, if you've ever watched an Adorama TV episode, you know we always say one thing at the beginning. What is our first picture? You know, let me know in the comments. And there's a good reason why we do that. Maybe no one knows, actually. Maybe everybody's new and they haven't actually kind of experienced this before. Also realise that's quite a tight shot, isn't it? Let me just see if I can go a little bit broader.
We have some comments.
Okay.
No flash, no picture. Gavin selfie.
Yeah, not today. Not
no
today.
Flash, no picture. Yeah, they've got it.
Okay, no flash, no picture. Yeah.
Black frame, black shots.
Okay.
Yeah. Oops, I tripped over my tether.
I've got more cables than I care to talk about, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Yeah, no flash, no picture. And you're never, ever going to get that with aperture priority mode, because the camera is always going to try and give you an exposure, even if the shutter speed is 30 seconds or longer. So the no flash, no picture thing, I'll explain why as we go through this session, but that's where we're going to start. But let's say you're coming to this completely new. This is your very first time using manual mode. What settings would I recommend for absolutely anybody to start with? Disclaimer, these are not the settings I actually use, but if I had to tell a random person, use this as a starting point, I'll show you what they are. So let me just dial in a few settings. Now, hopefully, if I press buttons and pull cables and plug things in, you might, normally this doesn't work when we try and do this live. It worked. Okay, there's Chloe. This is my camera. Hello, there we are. That's my camera. This is what my camera is seeing. You see in the bottom left corner the A for aperture priority. So I'm going to spin this around to M for manual mode. Okay, that's great. And then I'm going to dial in some settings that if you don't know where to start here. And they're going to be a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. Oh, live. Honestly, that one. F8 ISO 100. Oh, really? Yeah, there we go.
So we've had some people suggesting.
Okay.
Would you like to see?
Yes.
So we have Miko for his live gig set, shutter to 200, f2.8. And then Michael, ISO 200, 1/250th,
Yep.
5.6, and Dustin.
Perfectly good.
And
Okay.
Brian, yeah.
So there is a slight caveat. I think Miko said about using a slightly different type of photography. There's always a reason that you might want to consider changing these, but this is kind of unknown person doing unknown photography. Where on earth should you possibly start? I would suggest these settings right here as the kind of the beginning spot. Okay, I'm not going to stick with them, but they'll kind of do the job. And if I take a picture, I can do the no flash, no picture thing and throw that onto the screen for you. There you go. It's not, Frey, gotcha. I'm connected via HDMI. No flash, no picture. Okay, I can just press the info button just to... Okay, so that kind of fits the bill. But there's a problem with the settings. So if I actually dial in the ones I use, which is very similar to a lot of the comments we just had, I tend to use 250th, either f5.6 or f8, ISO 200, and I'll explain why as I go through. If I don't have my special mode on, this is what I'm actually going to see through the viewfinder. And this is hurdle number one for everyone to overcome. If you suddenly start switching to manual mode, you've got to deal with this. Not this, this is Chloe. You've got to deal with that, okay? This sudden dark screen. How on earth do you see where you're pointing your camera, what's going on? And that's because, by default, many cameras, not all, will show you the exposure that you're actually going to record. Remember, no flash, no picture means my viewfinder basically goes black. Never quite goes black on an OM system, but it's pretty close. So what you need to do is find in your menu a setting or a button, in my case, that overrides the preview. So this overrides the preview so I can actually see what's going on. Okay, so that's not an example of the exposure. That's the exposure if the flash didn't fire. This is overridden so I can see something through the viewfinder. Okay, that's great. Let's unplug that. Sorry, Fred, I'm just going to unplug that without telling you. That's what we like to do.
Try and keep up, that's fine.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. So let's talk about shutter speed. I've now got to reconnect everything as well. Bear with me. Oh, we didn't have this problem with the Fuji, did we? It was brilliant. Plug them all in and it worked. Come on, OM. Yeah, there we go. We're back up and running. So let's start with shutter speed. So we've got shutter speed, ISO, aperture. We'll take them in that order. Shutter speed is the one that I changed the least. So it makes sense to start there. So if everything is fine and the flash is working, let's just take a little test photo of Chloe. I'll back myself up a little bit so we're not so close. Okay, and we've got quite nice lighting. That's kind of dramatic. I can maybe just improve it a little bit, make it a little less contrasty. Sorry, Chloe, I'll grab that whilst you're grabbing. Okay, that's okay, but let's take a scenario where you're not in a room where the lighting is controlled. Let's say you're in a normal room and it's that kind of early morning, end of the day, you've got a window up there somewhere and this lovely warm light is streaming through. Remember, no flash, no picture. Does that still hold if you suddenly sit your subject in a ray of light? There we go. There we are. That is sunlight coming through, sunlight not. You can see a tiny little bit of the bright light coming through. So I haven't completely overpowered it, but for the sake of argument, we could safely say we've still got control of the light.
I've got a question.
Yes.
So Raymond asks, isn't that only applicable for mirrorless cameras? So
yeah, it is. Good point, Raymond. Oh, you forget that DSLRs are still a thing. If you've got a DSLR, forget that bit about overpowering it because you're looking through literally an optical viewfinder. The day they got rid of DSLRs and optical viewfinders and we all went electronic viewfinders, that's when the problems arose. But everything else is true. Everything, that's a big statement, isn't it? Okay, so let's come back in. So let's just do one more quick little test. So this is my flash sync speed, 250th of a second. Now, what happens if I start to change my flash sync speed, my shutter speed effectively? If I change my shutter speed to 1/250th of a second, what's going to happen? You can guess, stick it in the comments. Okay, here we go. 1/250th of a second, f8, ISO 200. Well, what happens is that little bit of light up here just becomes that little bit brighter. And it's just starting to affect the picture, just a little bit, not too much. But if I accidentally went for a 60th of a second, which is many cameras back in the day, flash sync speed, I can remember my Praktika, I think, had that. Suddenly I'm getting more light, and if I keep going to a 30th, and then maybe a 15th, and maybe even a 8th, let's go.
Yeah, so a couple of people have said the ambient light affects more.
Exactly that. Well done. That's exactly what's going to happen. The longer I make my shutter speed, 250, 1/125th, 1/60th, 1/30th, the longer the shutter stays open, the more of the room lights, the non-flashlight, is absorbed into my image. So the only reason that we go for 250th flash sync speed is that is the fastest shutter speed I can get by default on my camera. Yours might be different. For example, I was doing some stuff with Canon last year and it was like 160th I think I was at. If you've got a Fuji GFX, I think it's 125th of a second. So yours will be different depending on your camera brand, but you can see as my shutter speed gets longer, more light comes into the image, and even the background is getting brighter because the room lights are being recorded along with the flash. And the whole purpose of this, control of the situation.
So Lisanyi said, new to photography, what's no flash, no picture?
Okay, yep, we can quickly show you that. No flash, no picture is... I just switched off the camera by mistake. Hang on. I'm new to photography as well. I'm still learning. I meant to switch off the transmitter. Switched off the camera. Genius. Okay, no flash, no picture. So my camera settings are exactly the same. Can we pop my laptop on the screen? Laptop. Yeah, laptop. Yeah, here we go. So no flash, no picture. That is with the flash. And this is exactly the same picture, but without the... Oh, what am I on? Oh. Don't have it on 1/8 of a second, Gavin. This is exactly the same picture at my flash sync speed, my standard settings, no flash, no picture. The flash didn't fire, and I've got everything set, so nothing is being recorded other than the light that I want to control.
That's quite funny. Dave put, yeah, it's the camera's off, there's no flash, no picture.
Yeah, also true. Thank you, Dave. Right, okay, so that's pretty cool. So let's see if we can take a few... Oh, no, we'll go the other way. We're going to go the other way. I nearly forgot. Let's go the other way. Why can't you go beyond your flash sync speed? I can tell you that. Here we go. Let me show you why you can't go beyond. I need a light background for this to work, so just notice the high-tech device not available from Adorama. Okay, so turn that on. Let's take a test photo. I'm at my flash sync speed, 250th of a second. Yours may be different. I'll turn off the orange light. It's not doing us any job at the moment. Okay, flash sync speed, marvelous. What happens if I go, I don't know, 400th of a second, surely that must be better. Even better, we could see it getting better. So 400th of a second. Okay, that's all right. What about 500th of a second then? Let's try 500ths of a second. Something's not quite right. Let's try 640th of a second. 800th of a second. 1000th of a second. Oh, wait a minute. Where's Chloe going? Yeah, okay. As my shutter speed goes beyond my flash sync speed, so you're seeing a shadow cast by the shutter mechanism called the second curtain. And that is a shadow of the second curtain blocking the sensor when the flash fires. We're not going to go into why because it's really complicated and quite dull, but needless to say, there's a reason you don't go beyond your flash sync speed, and it is because this will happen if you go too fast. We could talk about high-speed sync, but we are not covering that in today. We're going to try and keep this as kind of beginner-friendly as we can. Okay, should we do something interesting? Should we use that knowledge to our advantage, do something more dramatic? Dramatic, that suddenly sounds really good, doesn't it? Something more creative, that's better. So I'm going to stick a grid on here.
Got a question?
Yeah, far away.
So
Chloe, do you
Reginald
want to hop up for me?
asked, so when would you want to use a slower shutter speed and allow more of the ambient light?
There is an occasional time, and that is if you want to bring in the ambient light as well. So let's say, for example, you're photographing candles, and you want to have the candles bright and glowing, and you also want to light your model with a flash because candle light isn't particularly bright. 250th of a second, the candles would barely look like they're a light at all. Maybe an 1/8 of a second would be a nice balance where you get some of the candle light and some of the flash. That's a lot more advanced. I'll let Daniel do that one. That sounds like a Daniel thing.
I think we have a couple of videos on Adorama balancing.
We have done it, yes, we
Yeah.
have. You can answer almost everything now with, we've done a video at some point. That doesn't mean to say we couldn't do another one. Okay, Chloe, you're going to come lean right up against the wall, up against this white wall here. And I'm going to squash Chloe. Let me know when I hit you. That's quite close, isn't it? Okay, something like that. And what I've done is I've put the light super close to Chloe. I've got a grid on it so it won't spread very far. And that should give us quite an interesting effect. Now we know no flash, no picture. I'm going to have to guess the power. You're quite close, so I'm going to guess 1/32nd power. Let's do a little quick test photo, see what we get. Okay, wasn't enough. Close though. Let's guess 2 stops more. 1/8 power on the flash. There we go. So other than the slight shine from the grid, no flash, no picture. So the rest of the room isn't really showing. So we can actually create a dark studio, even though Chloe is leaning against a white wall, by using our knowledge of shutter speed. We've got to be at the flash sync speed. We know we've overpowered the lights in the room, and we can end up with something quite dramatic like that. That's a white wall, but no light, no picture. Okay?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Jerome asked, when you don't use the zoom function of the flash, what zoom level is it on then?
Okay, so I'm using, as a good point, and I should have said, I'm using the Flashpoint Evolve 200 Pro. There are gear links in the video description if you want to go check them out. The Evolve 200 Pro with the bare bulb head, so it doesn't have a zoom head. I'll just show you. Oh, I can't, it's the Evolve 200, it won't pull out the back. The Pro Mark II. It doesn't have a zoom. I've got another one. Here we go. It looks like this. Like that, okay? That's what I've got. This is the Pro Mark I, but it's exactly the same, just has more LED modeling lamps on the Mark II and a bunch of other useful features. So there's no zoom on this. This is a bare bulb head, as it's called. So the light comes out in a 360-degree, more or less, arc. Good questions. Those are just kind of like the beginner questions that, as not even as a beginner, once you know it, but you've got to remember, not everybody does. So we had to start somewhere. I remember not knowing any of that stuff. let's do ISO. Okay, unless there's any other questions. Okay, okay. You're right. Fine.
You seem like you've got a lot to pack in today.
I've got a lot to pack in, but I don't mind questions as well.
I know you don't.
I do love a question.
Gino said, nice outfit.
Thank you. No, that was definitely me.
I think it's me.
I mean, you're literally wearing what you turned up in. So just want to point that out.
You're wearing what we put you back in the cupboard in.
Yes, this is... All right. Oh, God, family are worse, aren't they? Blimey. Right. So let's grab that. Let's do that. So we're going to do ISO. So quick question whilst I'm setting this up. What does ISO stand for? Anyone know? Don't Google it. I mean, you can do, but what does it mean? What does ISO actually mean? Does it mean anything? Have we just made it up because photographers love making up complicated sounding things? It used to be ASA when I started. That's how old I am.
In search of.
In search of, I like that. Yeah, that's not far off.
Here we go. International Standard Organisation. Just ISO. Yeah.
Just, yeah. Yeah.
International Standard something. Well, that would be ISS. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's International Space Station, isn't it? ISS? Pretty sure. Yes, it is. It's, at least I think it is.
Biggie said, I'm super organised. Well, it's nice to know, but do you know what it means?
Yeah. He's very confident in his own ability. Mind you, it's Biggie, so fair enough. Yeah, I believe it is. It's the most boring answer ever. It's some sort of international organisation.
It stands out. I like that one.
God, I love the Adorama audience. So good. Right, what are we doing? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, ISO. ISO. So let's have a little dive. I'm going to put my HDMI back in again. Bear with me. There'll be a short interlude whilst my camera goes. Oh, my God, what are you doing?
So Alan has
How's
asked
that?
a question. When should you use the bare bulb head as opposed to a standard speedlight head?
Okay, Alan. I use it, and I can only speak for myself, whenever I'm using a light modifier that wants to be filled. So softbox is pretty good. Maybe a standard reflector, possibly. But if I'm using an umbrella, for example, I would use the speedlight head because that wants direction, because I want the umbrella to fill, but I don't want it to spread beyond the edges of the umbrella. So if you want a very simple answer, speedlight for umbrellas, bare bulb for softboxes. It's always more complicated, but that's kind of a broad brushstroke answer. Right, there we go. Chloe is back in the house. So we have the same settings as before, 250th of a second. We have f8 as our aperture, and I've got ISO 200 as my ISO. Now that is there for a reason. Now you might be wondering, why am I not using ISO 100? Why am I not using ISO 100? There's some good reasons. Anyone want to share? Must I take a picture? I'm just going to sort the exposure out first. I mean, ISO 100 is like the classic, isn't it? Although when I started, we had Kodachrome 64 and we had Polaroid 1600 ISO. That was pretty much the two films I had in slides back in the day. Okay. Right, correct exposure. Okay.
Had some answers.
Oh, have we? Yeah, okay. They're quick, aren't they?
One extra stop of light if you need it.
Yep.
Native resolution.
Also, right, yeah.
Allows change in the future.
Yeah, okay. Not
Native
sure about that one.
ISO. As
That's
you
it.
base low ISO is 200.
Yep. And yet, when I did, I had a Sony last year and I had a Fuji in the studio last year, and both of those cameras I used at ISO 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Higher ISO lowers power on strobe, so faster recycling and longer shooting.
Blooming Dustin, obviously. Yes, well done, Dustin. Well done. Yeah, that's it. Ruin it for everyone. Get the right answer. Yeah. Spot. You want to do this, Dustin? Spot on though. What's so annoying is that is exactly the answer I would have given as well. So well done. So yeah, exactly that.
Are you handing out gold stars? That's what Dustin's going to ask next. Come on.
You can have a handshake, virtual. Come up with something else. Anyway, so it's exactly that. ISO 200 is the native ISO for my OM system camera, but that's not really the reason. It saves the flash because it's half the power. It recycles quicker. Batteries last longer. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it just works, but mostly is you can't tell the difference between ISO 100 and 200 if you get the exposure right. That's the caveat. Okay, so let's see. If I take a picture like this, here we go, Chloe, quick test photo. No, wait. There you go. I've got the power, haven't I? Whoa.
Power mad. Power mad.
Freya's unions will be on to me, won't you?
Just her mum.
Okay, so that's what the camera's seeing, ISO 200. Let's increase it up to ISO 400. And that means I take the power of the flash down one stop. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's ISO 400, that's ISO 200. Okay, let's go ISO 800. Now, back in the day when I first got OM system, or Olympus as it was, there's no way I would do ISO 800. 1, 2, 3, I think. Oops, that may be 4. Let's call it 3 and see what happens. Here we go. Okay, and what the heck? 1600 ISO. 1, 2, 3. I'm down to 1/64th power now. Okay, so I've got lots of different ISOs, but can you spot the difference? I mean, the exposure is shifting slightly because I'm not that good at it. But from this distance, you could not tell me which is which. Now, there is a small problem. I need to actually put them on my big screen. I've just realised the fundamental flaw I've made in this. Hang on. So we're going to do that again. Okay, just going to connect up. Just talk amongst yourselves whilst
I've got some questions.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So Biggie asked, what is the viewfinder light boosting feature called in the OM system jargon?
Oh, God, Biggie, they changed it. It used to be called Live View Boost on the EM1 series, and now it's called LV View or something or other. LV, I can't remember. But what I can tell you is it doesn't work if you've got an HDMI or a USB cable plugged in on the OM1. They fixed it on the OM2, but never rolled it back in the firmware to the OM1.
I'm just going to read this one out as well. So Nick said, my cat just tried to catch the fluffy parts of Chloe's jacket as I'm watching this on the telly.
Oh, cat entertainment service. Right, okay, let's do some same again. So here we go. 1, oh, nobody look at that one. Nothing to see here. Right, 1, and then ISO 400. 1/16th power, made it easy for myself now. ISO 800, 1/32nd power, that'll do. Okay, we'll do 3. So we've got 3 images at 3 ISOs, and if you believe the hype, Micro Four Thirds, you definitely shouldn't be any more than 200, 400 at the max, but sorry for the close-up view, Chloe, but look at the smooth background. It is a live stream, so it's not exactly the most wonderful way of testing it, but that is ISO 200, that is ISO 400, that is ISO 800. I can, if I look really closely, just see a bit of noise at ISO 800. But if I do this, I couldn't tell you, looking at Chloe's face. If I look at a smooth grey background, I could have a stab at it, but modern cameras, all of them, are really good at high ISO. The world has changed dramatically from just a few years ago. So although I use 200 ISO, I'm not afraid to go higher if I get my exposure right and I'm not pulling the detail out the shadows, because that's when you generate your noise that you don't normally see. You'll be all right, it's fine. Okay, should we do something more creative than that? Not saying they weren't great. So I'm going to take some pictures at ISO 800. Ooh, crazy. Don't think I've ever done this before. So, have some glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and we'll build this up. And what should happen is absolutely nothing. This should have no impact on the fact that I'm at an ISO other than 200. The only caveat to that is if I want to use my flash meter, and I do, then I need to change my flash meter and tell it I'm ISO 800. And I use a flash meter because, just like being in manual mode, it gives me consistency. Chloe, I'm going to pop this near your chin. Oh. Okay, look, here we go, because this never happens. Look at that. First time, ISO 800, 250th of a second, and the reading I've just received is exactly F8. It's because we're so good at this, Chloe, is what it is. It's not because we've done this 1,000 times. And you kind of guess. Okay, here we go. So quick test photo. Here we go. There we are. ISO 800, and you can only tell because it says it down the bottom down here. Look, there we go. That's kind of it. Other than that, I'm happy with that. Now, if you are slightly worried about noise, and it starts to bother you, particularly if you're going higher and higher, and we're going to talk about LEDs later on where that might become a thing, there's a really easy way to deal with the noise in camera. Okay, so we're not going to worry about post-processing. We're going to deal with it right now in a really easy way. I mean, if you can guess, let me know. It involves me fiddling with my camera a little bit, so bear with me. Also involves me putting glasses on and probably being taller. Okay, I got this.
So I'm going to read out a couple of things.
Okay, you do that.
So Ratcatcher said 317 watching and only 69 likes. Aren't you all enjoying Gavin and Co?
I think enjoying is a loose term, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can click the like, that would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Oh yeah, we should do that occasionally.
Yeah.
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah,
click
please.
subscribe.
That'd be good. Yeah. And Pieta said, doesn't the ambient light get more present in the exposure of the model at high ISOs?
Yes, it does. That's a very good point. So the ISO will also affect the amount of ambient light. We should do that. Let's have a little look. That's a good point. Okay, turn my flash off. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So technically, yes. In the real world, not so much. Okay, so it is there a little bit, but I'm not really seeing it. And I should have made that clear. That's a very good point because your ISO affects the ambient light that the camera records and the flash that the camera records. Yeah, it's a kind of a generic everything thing.
So noise setting.
Denoise, yep.
ISO noise reduction setting.
Yep.
Yep.
ISO, yeah, okay. They're all good answers,
Yeah.
and probably very, very accurate. I've never used that. No idea where it is in my camera. Could be anywhere. I used to be an ambassador for these guys, and I have no idea where it is. Haven't got a clue. So my solution is a little bit more low-tech. Here we go. Right. Who cares about noise when it's black and white? It's a bit of a general statement, but you can get away with noise that's more acceptable, weirdly, with black and white than it is with colour. Don't know why. I think it's a historic thing, but by and large, a little bit of noise. I've even seen people add noise into their images. A little bit of noise is kind of okay, but nonetheless, I mean, there's a bit of noise there, but it doesn't look unpleasant. I'm happy with that. Okay, what I'd like to do is get a slight reflection in Chloe's glasses. So let me just see if we can turn the modelling lamp on, see if I can see anything. No, not with that one. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Okay, cool, there we go. So I've just moved the light around. Weirdly, I want a reflection in Chloe's glasses. It's got nothing to do with ISO and everything to do with aesthetics.
I just popped a question on from Euconica. Where did you get the Soconic cover?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, because I don't think it is on Adorama, is it? That one. I think that was actually someone sent it to you.
Somebody found this on eBay years ago because I always lose it, which is why I've got a red cord on the back. It's not because we're in any way connected with the company who lent me the red cord, it's just because it's easy to find. But this is a rubber bumper. I think you might, if you're lucky, have a rummage around Adorama's used department. You never know, you might well find one, and if not, ask them. They might be able to find
I
one
will
for you.
say he still loses it. He just tends to find it a little quicker.
Don't tell them that. I think there's some things we have to leave off the live. It's actually true. That's, anyway, where were we? Okay, yeah, black and white. So I've put a little bit of a catchlight in Chloe's eyes, or the glasses, just to give it a bit more depth and dynamism. Are you okay? Do you need a drink? Okay, go grab a drink. So, Chloe's got some glasses on, and I'm going to give her a prop to work with that's going to work with the glasses as well. And it is a camera. Technically, my camera. Actually, no, technically it isn't, is it? So this is the very first Olympus camera I got from OM System that they said, borrow this for a couple of days and let me know what you think. That was about 8 years ago. They might want it back, but it broke some time ago. So if Olympus want it back, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so what's going to happen? Chloe's going to hold it. There we go. As simple as that. Chloe, you're going to hold it and hold it up against your eye. And we're just going to take a quick little test photo. Here we go. Okay, I'll move everything around a little bit, but my thinking was this looks a lot like the lens of the sunglasses. So I'm going to steer you and see if we can get this to work. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Hold that. Okay. Coming in closer. Okay, kind of cool. I might even just pop the brightness up a little bit because there's a little bit of a shadow. There we go, coming from Chloe's arms. Okay, relax. Okay, now, because I'm at f8 and I'm using a lens that's only 45 millimeters because I'm in a micro four thirds, I've got depth of field that's sufficient to cover everything I need there.
Your nail looks so cool. Your nail was on the top of that. Looks very cool. Not yours, Gav.
Oh, never get any compliments, especially about my nails. Anyone likes my nails, let me know in the... Oh, no, please don't, actually, that's weird. Okay, let's try this. So black and white is good, but maybe what we actually want to do is to throw a bit of colour in. Because I think it has a bit of a retro feel. So again, I'm going to steer you. So yeah, that's perfect, okay. I'm going to get off the tripod. I'm not a tripod fan. If I can possibly get away with it, I will definitely shift this around. Okay. Love it. Hang on a second, Chloe. I just need to change a setting on here. Get my focus right. There we go. We're off. Okay, just talk amongst yourselves whilst I'm enjoying taking photos. Fantastic.
That looks really good. Brad's here too, and he said it looked good too. We
Run out
all
of
love that.
There you go. I think that's kind of cool. A little bit more. Could do with a little bit more depth of field. Okay. Ah, I can see why, because this mode has only got f2.8. Okay.
So Joe...
Nobody look at that. I just realised there was a preset.
Joe asked, how did you add the colour?
Okay, let's try that again.
Did you shift your white balance?
So, Joe, inside of most cameras is the ability to adjust colour balance and also colour shifts. So I've shifted the colour towards the bluey greeny end. So it's like a little kind of circle or square, and I've just dragged it up and to the side. Now, I'm also shooting in RAW, so none of this is coming over in the RAW files. This is only happening on the JPEGs, because I'm shooting JPEG and RAW. So in RAW, I could go and do my own colour grading, boom, as I want. Okay, that's better. I was at f2.8. I didn't realise
for those photos.
The preset. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, lots of love for that.
How complicated is that? So it's a pair of round sunglasses and your oldest camera. Thank you. I never want to get to see the comments. I appreciate the love on that one. Right, how are we doing? Right, that should actually bring us onto Aperture, because we were talking about it. Are you all right? You okay? Okay, we can lose the sunglasses. And we can lose the camera. Careful with that. That is an antique heirloom. And one day Olympus might ask for it back. You never know. Right. So, aperture. So we spoke earlier about the ISO, and somebody correctly mentioned if you increase your ISO, it affects how much of the ambient light you drag into your image. The same is also true for the aperture. So we'll have a little look and see how that goes. So let's swap over lenses. Let's have something a little bit more exciting. Go for an f1.2 lens. Okay. And we'll stick to the same settings. We'll take away the weird colour. We'll go back to normal colour. And we'll go back to ISO 200. So I'm just going to reset everything because sure enough, I'm going to forget something important like that. Just to be on the safe side. Just kick everything. Put my glasses on. I was going to say put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And I immediately kick the tripod. Right. Should we check the exposure? So I've changed everything. I'm going to check my exposure using my flash meter. We could do trial and error. You don't need a flash meter. It's not essential. Just because we're working in manual mode, we don't need a flash meter. I should also say the flash is in manual as well. There's no TTL going on here. Again, it's all about consistency and control from my point of view. Okay, so once again, everything is very blurry.
It really likes your shirt.
It does, doesn't it? There we go. Okay, so ISO 200, f8, 250th of a second. So I know that this is going to be technically the correct exposure. Technically correct and actually correct, not the same thing, but it's a good start. Okay, quick test photo. Boop. Okay, very safe. Very okay, nothing wrong with that. Chloe is pin sharp, absolutely bitingly extreme sharpness. That's flash for you. Background is blurry, but it's quite distinguishable.
Got a couple of questions.
Far away.
Joe asked, why are you using your old flash meter instead of your new one?
That's a good question, and the reason for that, there's two reasons for that. Firstly, the other one didn't have any batteries in it when I started, and I forgot to put batteries in before you went live. And secondly, and the real reason, is because this is supposed to be a beginner session, and a £600 flash meter might be a bit intimidating. Let's go with that reason and not the first one. Both true.
Jerome asked, what software do you use for tethering?
Okay, so Jerome, I am using OM Systems Capture to connect to the camera to my laptop, and I'm using a very, very old tether software program whose name eludes me, but it's the only one I own that allowed me to put the information on the screen that you can actually see, because Olympus does, or OM System does their own, but it doesn't show you the EXIF data. And I know you can do Capture One and all those sorts of things, but this is what we're using. Okay, where were we? Okay, so that's f8. So what about shallower depth of field? Let's make that background blurrier. Now my lens will go to f1.2, but for the sake of mathematics, I'm going to go to f1.4, all will become clear in a minute. Okay, this is going to go wrong. This is going to go wrong. Just to be clear, I'm doing this so you don't have to. Okay, here we go. You think, oh great, I want f1.4. I'm going to change nothing. Here we go, Chloe. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, what on earth happened? Something went horribly wrong, because that isn't, unless you wanted an incredibly smooth skin tones. I mean, literally can't see a pore of skin on that, or anything else. That's obviously not right. And there's two things going on here. So first of all, we have the f1.4 aperture letting in loads more flashlight, but I didn't reduce the amount of flash. Okay, let's fix that. We can take it down to 8, 16, 32, 64th, 128, 256. Okay, that's the right amount. Here we go. Okay, that's much better because we've reduced the flash power, but it's very even, isn't it? Very even. I mean, the light's only coming in from this side, so what's lighting this ear here? I mean, it's not passing through, we know that. There's loads going on between those ears. Super brainy. But that was supposed to be a compliment. I'm not going to do compliments anymore.
I'm going to read a couple of things out. So when that one came up, originally very, very bright, Brad put fix it in post.
Yeah, cheers, Brad.
Ratcatcher put high key.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had to do worse in my years of work when things go wrong. Okay, so yeah, let's just
so
do
we've
the
got, bounce, room bounce.
Yep. No, but yes. I mean, it's a possibility, isn't it? But it's on 256 power. There's no way it went a whole 12 feet into the do camera 5. This is what it's bouncing off of. So, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Your shiny foreheads. Yeah. No, not that. So yeah, it's not that. No, so it's not bounce, but it's a fair question. Sometimes that is the right answer.
Bounce or ambient light, ambient. So what's for aperture too high?
Yep, okay. So it is exactly that. So no flash, no picture. Remember, if you joined us earlier, I'm going to do no flash. My flash is off. No picture. This is what the camera is seeing without any flash firing. That is a huge amount of light coming in. It's probably only a stop or so underexposed using the room lights. Now, how could I fix this? There are many ways. Here's the thing. You're in this situation. What are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? Okay, and I'm going to give you a clue. We are not using high-speed sync flash. Save you typing HSS. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix this? I'm going to fix it whilst they're typing. Okay, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. No one look. I'm just going to fiddle around with the. Oh, sorry about that. That was my microphone.
Yeah, well, Brad's fired it straight back at you. What's your favourite way?
Can't answer with a question.
So, ND filter, lower ISO, ND filter, ND. They're good, aren't they? Aperture or shutter,
Honestly,
use a
we obviously
second
need to go
light,
less basic.
ND.
Okay, well, let's just take a photo and find out. Here we go. There you go. How did I fix this? How did I go from this to that? Okay. Well, yeah, it was an ND. It was an ND filter. Yes, you're right. So, if you can do the maths, F8 to F1.4 is 5 stops. You can do the maths. 5 stops. So I've put a 5-stop ND filter on, and that's going to remove 5 stops of flash and 5 stops of ambient light, which is what we gained simply by opening up the aperture. So I didn't have to change the flash power. The other option, if I don't have an ND filter, would be turn all the room lights off, because they're the thing that's adding to the picture. So that's a possibility. So my preference is probably high-speed sync flash, but if it's a beginner and a basic one, then my next preference would be an ND filter, a good one. My last preference is turn the room lights off, because I will fall over and trip over the cables. Right, let's take a few images. Do you want to just lean in as much as you can? So we'll do some shallow depth of field stuff. Okay, really nice. Now if Chloe moves in, of course I have to move the light, because otherwise she moves out the light. Now the only downside is my camera is having great fun finding and focusing Chloe's eyes, because I've put a 5-stop ND right in front of it. And it's going, well, I can focus, but, you know, let's not hurry. Okay. And the closer I get to Chloe, the shallower the depth of field becomes. The more I step back, whoop, not that far back, the sharper the background becomes, because you get more depth of field at closer focusing distances. But nonetheless, okay, really nice. So that's a nice simple trick. It is, this particular one is a Hoyer one. I couldn't find a link on Adorama, but there are lots of other ND filters. You want a 3, a 5, or maybe a 6 ND filter, or failing that, just get a variable ND. That also works too.
Someone asked about using the internal filter inside, but someone else said that you might not be able to use it with flash.
Yeah, exactly that. So some cameras, like the OM system and the Olympus cameras, have computational neutral density, which is a electronic neutral density. It's totally different, fine if you're using natural
I'll just put them
light.
on now. Sorry, I couldn't find them. So it was Joe
Yeah.
that asked that, and then Suba said, "I don't think you can use the
Yeah,
internal."
no. It's got to be a physical ND. The mechanical, the electronic NDs are a completely different thing. But it's a good question because it makes sense. It's got the same name. Right, how are we doing? We've got 10 minutes to go. Ooh, that's pretty good. Have we missed anything? Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. No, we're pretty good. Let us.
So Adorama have added a link for the ND filters on
cool.
there. Yeah,
Thank
just in
you.
case
Yeah, I
anyone
couldn't
would like to
find
have a
them.
look.
Right, so we've done flash, and we've done it with shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. But the world is changing. Things are moving on. LED is much, much more of a thing than it ever used to be. So I've got an LED. Again, link in the video description. This is the Juan Molus G200. What we used earlier, if you were here earlier on. And we need to put a softbox on it of some sort. So let's grab that one.
Jerome asked, did you actually tape up a break in your USB-C cable?
Did you actually tape up a break? No. Did you actually? I think he's asking, have I taped one up? No, I haven't. If there's any tape on the USB, is there any tape? Oh, I can see what you're talking about. Hang on, I'll show you. Hang on. I thought it might be my... some of my stuff you'll see has yellow and green stripy tape on. It's not to repair anything, it's simply to mark it as mine. So we've got the photography show here in the UK in a few weeks' time. And imagine hundreds of photographers with similar equipment. Equipment ends up being put down all over the place. You need to quickly identify what stuff is yours. But I think you're referring to... oh, I can't move it. This bit... Frank, can you, if I zoom you in, can you, hang on, other way, hang on, I can do this, I do that, wrong camera.
You're moving it. I'm trying to keep up with you. You're moving it.
That bit there, that's not tape, so that is a repeater, so that's an electronic repeater, so it takes the signal and amplifies it until it gets to the next one, which is down here. So this is a 30-foot USB cable. Normally you can only go about 10 feet and the signal stops. So this is Tether Tools USB repeater cable. Brilliant.
As we know, Gavin likes to twirl round and round and round with his cable.
Let's reset you. Here we go.
Biggie's just asked if you'll be at the photography show doing demos.
Yes.
With Chloe.
We will. We'll both be there. Yes. We will indeed. Okay, so let's set this to 5200. Okay, so it was on 5%. I'm going to take it up to 15%. Let's go mad, 20%. And I'll talk about why that's important in a second. So what settings do I want to use for my LED lights? We're a bit short of time, so I'm going to just shout them out. So I tend to stick with some fairly straightforward settings, or some mindset of settings. The first one is the shutter speed. I don't like to go under 1/250th of a second. 1/120, oh my goodness me. 125, 1/125th of a second. It's got 2 and 5 in it. 1/125. So that is kind of like my absolute minimum, and that's simply because camera shake, model movement. Okay, so I'd rather be much higher than that. Now to get there, I'm okay putting my ISO to 400, 800. We've already established that that works just fine. I'm also happy to have a shallower depth of field. In fact, I tend to do shallow depth of field stuff not so much with flash as with LED, because it just lends itself to shallow depth of field work. So f1.4, f2, f2.8, f4 is about my maximum. Now I'm doing all of those things with one last thing in mind, and that is the brightness of this light. You can see it's bright. It's quite bright.
Yeah, someone's actually just asked, so Nick said, question for Chloe, do you prefer continuous lighting or flash? The LEDs look really bright.
Yeah. Yep. I would say I can totally understand. So there's a couple of reasons for that. Partly is because it's not as bright to work with, but also the flash is a trigger, a reminder that things have changed, to change pose, to move. So there's lots of reasons why flash can be an easier medium to work with from a modeling point of view, but from a photography point of view, what you see is what you get with LED, which is kind of cool. So a few things to do. First of all, turn off the room lights, or at least as many as you can. Did I turn the room lights off, or did I turn the internet off? I don't know yet. We'll find out in a minute. They're on the same switches. Just realised the router's on that switch. Okay, and I'm doing that because I want this light to be the only light that reaches Chloe from the camera's point of view without me having to blast her with 100%. 200 watts is a lot of light. We're on 20%. Okay, so those are my basic settings. Yeah, shallow depth of field. Let's see. I'm going to be in manual mode still because this is all about manual mode. And you might think, well, surely now aperture priority makes sense. There's no flash to worry about. But think about it. The light's not moving. Chloe's not moving. Everything is the same distance. Once I've set my exposure, I don't want to change it. Aperture priority might vary my exposure a little bit picture to picture, and that would need to be corrected in post. No, thank you. Okay, so let's see. I'm also going to turn on my histogram so I can see my histogram in the viewfinder, which I managed to not set because I was fiddling around. Okay, here we go. Let's see where we're at. Turn the flash off. Oh, live streams. Got it. Okay. There you go. That is continuous LED. Pretty good. Shallow depth of field. I'm at f1.4. Perfectly in focus on Chloe's eyes. No need to put an ND filter on the lens. Just check it, take it off. I did. Okay, that's fine. So that kind of works quite nicely. Simple, effective LED. So at least one 125th. At least ISO 200, but probably 400 or 800. And aperture wider the better. Manual mode, simply for consistency. Right, we've got like a minute to do something creative. Okay.
So Joe asked, who styled Chloe? Sam or herself? Loved the Viking looking coat. It was definitely Chloe. Yeah, yep. Sometimes we will have something in mind with a style, and sometimes we'll share who's going to be styling, but this is definitely all Chloe. We saw the coat on her Instagram and just went, yes, we've got to have that. It's brilliant.
Chloe's Instagram's in the link down below. Chloe K Model. It's a modelling Instagram account. Okay, let's see where we're at. So I'm going to take a little test photo just to see what we've got. And I quite like black and white. So we're going to go black and white to finish off with because I've got an idea where shallow depth of field is exactly what we want. Because there is a time when continuous light beats flash. And that is if you're doing stuff like this. It's not the Scream, but actual real prints. Yay, guess what I got for Christmas? So, yeah. So we've made a little print. So before we went live, I got Chloe to do her very best posing. I'm going to give you that. There we go. Let's turn that one off. And Chloe's going to hold that out in front of her. And I'm going to go shallow depth of field, f1.4. I need to turn off face and eye detect because otherwise it's going to go for your actual face, not the photograph. And focus over there. There we go. Cool. Okay, so move this light just a little over here. Fantastic. And I can even go a little bit changing. So I'm in manual mode. I'm just establishing my exposure. Once I've got my exposure kind of nailed in, I can then go and keep going. So now I've got an exposure nailed in. Whether it's the right exposure or the wrong exposure, it's the same. And that's the key with manual and continuous light. It's not having a variation in exposure. Consistency. Everything is the same, makes your post-processing experience so much quicker. Does help to get them in focus. Stop looking at the screen, I can see you. So tempting, isn't it? Okay, hold it with 2 hands. Okay, let's go vertical. Hold it right up in front of your face. There, let's go that way. I've got to move my focus point.
So Joe asked, are you exposing for the picture or Chloe herself?
Well, she's in basically the same light. So I'm looking at the broad picture and just going, yep, that's about right. One last one. Boom. Let's stop there. Okay. Okay.
Some very nice comments. Love how you explain what you're doing with what you get. Always so creative.
Yeah, but the creativity bit is kind of led on from you're here. We could have just taken basic test photos, but when you've paid for an amazing model like Chloe, you want to make sure you get something amazing at the end of it. And actually, it's not hard with Chloe because she is fantastic at what she does. Let's just turn those room lights on. And from my point of view, it's just more fun. And if you're not having fun with your photography, you're not doing it right. Alrighty, there we go. That brings us to the end of this live session. Giving it up for the amazing Chloe. Woo! Fantastic. And behind the scenes, Freya on the Super Switcher, Sam on the comments.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your comments, everyone, and thank you for answering the questions that I didn't get to, and yeah, being awesome. Thank you.
We're going to be back in 4 weeks' time here on Adorama TV, but if you want to see more live stuff, I made some notes, okay? Because coming up next week is Chris Knight with Seth on Wednesday. Seriously? Wow, Chris Knight, that is well worth a watch. Amazing photographer. If you've not come across Chris Knight, yeah, definitely an amazing guy. And then on Thursday, just as amazing, is Daniel going live doing portraits versus headshots. Are they the same? I thought that's the same thing. Surely they're the same thing, Daniel. I guess I should watch your live stream and find out. So that's going to be next week. We're going to be back in 4 weeks' time. Thank you very much to Adorama for letting us do this, but mostly thank you for you guys for watching. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.